Hello and welcome to a very exciting edition of Meet the Solutionaries on Green TV. Very excited to bring you the founder of Green TV. That is Jon Lake. You've heard us talk about him. He is the brilliant man who had the vision some 26 years ago to purchase the URL greentv.com. And we are working our way, building up the foundation for Green TV. And it's very exciting because this is the moment, right? Both Jon and I were very early on. The other man that you're seeing is the man, well, he's really the man behind the magic. Maybe he's like the Wizard of Oz. He's the guy who is doing cutting edge conversions, taking internal combustion engines on, I don't know, mostly older cars or maybe not only, and turning them into clean green driving machines. And Gregory Coles, welcome. You are the CEO and founder of CLOC, which is Coles spelled backwards, you said.
Correct.
Any other secret message in that name?
Well, in the future, when my wife and I buy our boat, we want to name it CLOC, and you would think it would be spelled SEALOCK, but it'll be spelled our last name backwards. So hopefully that'll be a way for us to secure a name for our boat. Someone else won't have it.
Well, I'm good at naming boats. My husband just recently sold his company of 28 years and bought a catamaran that he's chartering out in the Bahamas, and I named it Interlude. So we can hopefully have some short interludes in between the people who are chartering the boat. So when it comes to naming things, I'm pretty good, but let's not digress because we're not talking about boats today, although Jon Lake knows a lot about electric boats as well. Jon, it's just such a pleasure and an honor to see you, not just in one of our twice a week Zoom meetings, but right here on the screen at Green TV. This is a very big Green Letter Day. I just want to say we're recording this on the day that the IPCC report has come out, yet another one that could not be more dire sounding, that could not be more alarming. Antonio Guterres of the UN says, to delay is deadly. I mean, very stark words. And the scientists who have been quoted, who were part of that report, equally alarming. This one is even scaring me, I have to be honest. And also as we are watching what's happening unfold in Ukraine with the invasion of Russia, and of course, more than a few environmentalists, most notably Bill McKibben, who's been very active in the climate world, has just written a fabulous column. You saw it, Jon, about how, we keep getting entangled in wars, whether it's
oil and gas.
It's all about gas. And we've been burning up the planet and burning, everything from wood to you name it for eons. And we're still burning stuff up and now blowing stuff up. And one of the big solutions is electrification of the whole transportation system and grid. And I know you've been very, very, very focused on that, Jon, for many years, specifically converting internal combustion engines, which you've done in your own garage. And Greg Coles, who's taking time out from his busy day under the hood to join us to tell about the operation that he's been leading, which has been going on kind of quietly on the sidelines for years. We've talked about Felix Kramer, who was an early guest on Green TV, who in a garage with his partner in Marin County, where I'm from, was taking a Toyota Prius and turning it into a hybrid before Toyota was making hybrid Priuses. So that was back in early 2000s. So I know it's been going on for some time. So without further ado, I just want to let you know, both of you, that I could not be more eager to get into this conversation at this very critical moment in our nation's fate, our planet's fate. Our president is giving State of the Union tomorrow?
Tomorrow night,
yeah.
Right.
It's a blur. There's so much news. Anyway, I'm going to let you guys tell me what you're excited about.
Yeah, one of the biggest things that that has me more hopeful than anything is Gregory, and again, Felix Kramer can back all of this up, is that Gregory actually has a solution. And again, I compare it, we can plant a tree and wait, or we can convert an EV and have immediate effects. That tree will take 100 years, and it will do its job, but converting, one car at a time.
And getting it out on the highway and getting another internal combustion engine off.
And you're getting immediate results, and it's things that everyone can do. I mean, even a 15-year-old child can see what they'll be driving, and they can see.
Haven't you been doing this since you were about 15, Jon? Didn't you teach yourself how to convert these vehicles?
I converted my first one when I was 12.
you're from an automotive family and you've been working in garages for your whole life, and you
Yeah,
had
and-
an illness that made you convinced that it was some of the exhaust you were breathing and around for so many years that perhaps led to your illness. And that was part of your desire to only work on and promote and sell green vehicles. That's my understanding. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah, and that's what the experts said. That when they had sent me home to die, they said you should have picked out another career. And thankfully, I had a second opportunity, and I got an opportunity 27 years ago. Just on the day that my mother died, I got an opportunity to start my life back over again.
And you recycled your career, as I did, from news to environmental news.
And now, again, I'm lined up with a genius, Gregory Coles, in my book. And again, I've been doing this all my life. He's the best I know.
So Greg, tell us where you got your start in this very exciting, interesting, just full of promise area.
Well, thank you for having me. First of all, I appreciate it.
Honor.
I finally get to tell my story. So I grew up just like John. I grew up a car guy. My father, he chose a career of law enforcement, but before he went in, when I was when I could walk, when I can first remember all the way until I was 12, when he joined the police force, my job was to hold the flashlight. So while he worked on cars, my job was to hold the flashlight wherever, and I had to aim on whatever he was doing. And that was his way of teaching me, because I had to concentrate on where his hands were. That's how I learned. And there were tons of moving parts, even in the 70s. I remember him, turning the distributor cap to make sure that the thing didn't backfire, and changing, plugs and wires and belts and stuff. And then I became a car guy. And around 17, I rebuilt my first motor, and, it took weeks, and my dad told me how I'd appreciate it later on in life, learning how to do these things myself. So consequently, I got into the car business, and I bought and sold cars just like many young people did in the 80s and 90s. And then around mid to late 2000s, I always kept it as a side business. I always kept, even whatever I did, I always kept a little car to flip to make money with. And around it was 2013, 14, I was working on a car, and I had just heard of Tesla, and I remember thinking how I grew up with remote control cars, and how it would be neat to have a life-size RC car. This is possible. I've heard of a few companies doing this, but I hadn't heard of anyone taking cars and retrofitting them and making them electric. I hadn't delved deep into the history or the industry enough. Back then, it was a community. It was strictly EV was a community. And then it went into starting to become an industry. And I remember thinking that I wanted to make this an industry, but I knew I couldn't compare with the OEMs and the $1 billion boys club of making electric vehicles at a factory. So I thought about converting them. And prior to my first conversion, I had a tow company, and I was picking up cars on the side of the freeway and interstates. It was basically a roadside assistance company. And then I thought about the tow truck I was driving, and how cumbersome it was, and how much it broke down, and how many moving parts it had, along with the other cars I was towing. And then I thought, I would love to make one of these electric, but I had to work my way up. Around 2013, there wasn't an electric automotive industry. It was just a community. And so there wasn't any mainstream news or mainstream information you could find out. You had to dig for this stuff.
It was more like a cottage industry.
Mm-hmm.
Sir?
I'm sorry.
A cottage industry or garage industry.
Yeah, exactly. And so you had to search the stuff out, and parts weren't readily available. It was challenging to build an electric vehicle, because you really had to know the right people to get the parts and to get the support to build one.
I believe you. I believe it was.
Yeah, it was a challenge. So YouTube became really popular when Google bought them. I think it was around 2016, 17. And then you could Google things, you could YouTube things just like you Google them. And so this world changed of information that you could get to get video information and your contacts also, because people wanted to be contacted who put videos up in YouTube. So I started meeting people in the industry and figuring out what it took to build an electric vehicle. And around 2018, there was a guy named Paul Jones who owned the Atlanta Electric Car Company. He since got out of the business, but he blessed me tremendously by allowing me to come to his shop. He had an old Ford dealership in Elberton, Georgia. And I told him I wanted to get into the electric car industry. And he said, if you really want to get in this industry, you'll drive 3 hours out here to where I am in the middle of nowhere. And he had about 4 electric vehicle projects going. And he had an office in the front of the building where the salesman used to work, because this is an old Ford dealership. Mm-hmm. So I grabbed an air mattress and a bunch of food, and I slept up in that front office, and I learned how to convert electric vehicles at that shop there. It was about a year apprenticeship program. There was no pay involved. My job was to learn. And that's what I did. The first time I touched the BMS, which is a battery management system, it looked like a bomb went off, and the bomb was just wires. I had no clue what I was doing.
Spaghetti.
Wait. Isn't that a little dangerous to have?
It's very dangerous. I've blown a few batteries up. They've had a couple.
You have all your fingers and toes?
I've got all my. Well, one thing Paul always expressed was safety first. So I had goggles, I had a face shield, I had rubber insulated gloves. I mean, he said, if you don't know what you're doing, be safe. So he gave me enough he showed me enough for me to be dangerous. The rest I learned on my own. And then I met a few people in Atlanta who were gracious enough to give me some conversion projects. They gave me a nice sized budget to learn with. And along with what I learned from Paul, my old automotive days, and I linked with a person named Bill Scalia, who actually designed one of the most successful electric vehicles that's been running. His vehicles have been on the road for about 14 years and have been running problem free. No maintenance, but the only thing you need with his cars are brakes and tires. That's it. He designed, the car was called the Wego, that came out in 2008. It was a product that was spearheaded by MindSpring, which is an internet company. And Brian McHugh, who was the owner of MindSpring, was really passionate about electric vehicles. He threw together a hefty multi-million-dollar budget behind it, and they built these vehicles, and they built about 300 of them, and they sold them throughout the world, and mainly here in the United States. As a matter of fact, my company has the remaining inventory of the Wegos. We've got the last of all the Wego equipment in the world. If you need something, we have it. So yeah, it's pretty interesting. But things have changed so much since 2010 and 2013 that the batteries, the management system, the motors, everything, all of it's archaic. It's all, pretty much old news. It's not efficient. You'd never use it again. However, the principles of electric vehicles have not changed at all. The same thing that was going on in the early 1900s is going on now. Vehicles were DC powered back then. Now they're AC powered, but it's still a motor, a controller, a battery, and a throttle and brakes. It's the same exact thing. It's a little bit more intricate as far as, the complexity, of course, is going to increase with technology, but the basic principle is still the same. Just like the internal combustion engine has not changed since the early 1900s, neither has electric vehicles.
Electric vehicles, I'm lucky enough to have a Tesla 3. They're so sophisticated and so smart and so quickly. Like, is that just Elon Musk's brilliance, or somehow they arrived on the scene and it wasn't like anything basic? It was something, like a computer in your car, like a laptop right between the driver and the passenger side on the dashboard. And, it takes some knowing to drive it safely. I remember my husband got it right when we moved to Austin. He had to bribe me to move to Texas with a Tesla waiting in the driveway. And literally a few days after we arrived, I didn't have time to get in it for 3-4 days, which I was dying to. It's a beautiful silver little Tesla 3 to drive to an Earth Day conference in Dallas, EarthX. And I had forgotten till I just figured a car's a car, right? Well, there I am driving down up 35 to Dallas, and I wasn't sure how to turn my radio off or turn the heat on, and everything I was pushing while I was driving, which was so dumb. It's amazing I didn't get killed. I would hold my breath like, I hope I don't self-eject. I mean, so complex, but I just figured how complicated it can be just to, drive forward and reverse and brake and accelerate, but it's much more than that. So you must have tremendous respect for Tesla and what they've done.
Oh, tremendous.
Yeah.
Tesla is, I have to admit that Tesla, I want to say that they're one of the main reasons that mass adoption is occurring like it is with vehicles.
Made it sexy.
They made them fun. They made them competitive. They made them, of course, sexy is a matter of opinion, right? Your beauty is in the eye of the beholder. But to make a car that is a little bit more fashion over function when it comes to an EV is pretty much remarkable. When we think of EVs, we think of the Honda Insight or the Chevy EV1, the Chevrolet EV1. These cars were strictly, or the Nissan Leaf. They were strictly function over fashion. They did enough to make them go efficiently. By any means were they attractive at all. They were not attractive cars. Tesla comes along.
My first Prius in 2002 was green. It looked like an earth shoe.
Exactly.
Go ahead.
And this is by design. This was all by design. And I may be reaching when I say this, but in a world where automotive is ruled by oil, right? And when in oil and phosphorus fuels, well, then the car can be designed around that oil and phosphorus fuel platform. Okay, you can package it as sexy as you want to make it. It's just like a hamburger. It's not good for you, a cheeseburger, but you can make it look good. Hard to make a veggie burger look good.
They're getting better. They're getting better.
Yeah.
Bean burgers.
But they're getting better, just like electric vehicles. Mm-hmm. And Tesla is like the beyond burger of electric vehicles.
We had chicken sliders for dinner last night. Not really chicken. They were pretty good. They're getting better, like you said.
They're getting better. See, there you go. And so this is where I come in. A lot of people say, the people I've talked to were like, yeah, I love Tesla. I like Teslas. I like what they do. I like how fast they are. But they say, but they're just plain cars. They're just not user. This is opinion. This is opinion. The people I've talked to have said these, in their opinion, that the Teslas were just boring. They were iPhone cars.
There are a lot of Tesla haters out there. Jealous.
There are. Yeah. So I had to find a middle ground. And the middle ground that I wanted to find was, how do I take a car that has a very beautiful skin to it, right? And make it so that it's user-friendly, earth-friendly. How do I make this car move into the 21st century, right? And still have its appeal, because this is what people have their attraction to with cars, is to look out in the garage and take your pictures of the car. You see what it is. But how do I make this car transcend into the 21st century? I wanted to get rid of that internal combustion engine. These parts that these cars run on, they're pretty much retired, the parts, right? They're hard to get. When these cars were built in the 60s, 70s, and 80s and 90s, emissions was not one of the top of the list of the car, okay? It was power, how it sounded, and longevity of the car, of course, how many miles per gallon you could get towards the 90s, not in the 70s, of course. Right. So I had to figure out how to make these cars last longer and get into make it into the 21st century. So I thought about making them electric. Okay. There's two sides, there's two views of this car. It's either loved or loathed, one or the other. It's hard to find any middle ground. People either love it, oh my gosh, look at this, or oh my God, you ruined this car. But it's fine. The point is, the car is around and it works. And I don't have to pay maintenance. I don't have to worry about oil changes. I don't have to worry about belts or hoses. I don't have to worry about anything. I barely have to worry about brakes, because when you let off of the throttle, just like you do in your Tesla, it slows you down because it's regenerating energy back into the battery, which saves on your brakes.
Right. It's so weird when we rent a car, and it's like, I have to brake. Oh, I almost forgot how to put my foot on the brake.
And I know, right? You used to have it done for you. So I took it a step further. And so the rite of passage were these vehicles that I've built. And I've built different vehicles in different sizes just to prove that any vehicle can be converted. I built an F450 dually. This is a 9,000 pound truck. And I powered it with a single Tesla motor. And I made it so you could drive this truck front wheel drive, rear wheel drive, or all wheel drive. One motor, one truck. All right. And I did it just to prove that it could be done. And this truck outperformed my gas powered truck. It was super fast, had over 100 mile, about 130 mile range. And it's a work truck. It looks just like, if you go to my YouTube channel, it looks just like a little work truck, but yet it's dead silent, puts out no emissions, and can perform and pull a trailer and do anything that a regular truck would.
Now I know why Jon calls you a genius. That really is impressive. I have to say, what little I know about conversions, that's remarkable. Wow.
Well, the truck that I built, I did that, like I said, just for rite of passage, to prove that you can take a small Tesla motor, which is the size of a watermelon, and put out 400 horsepower, over 400 horsepower, and almost 500 foot-pound of torque. That was just to prove where electric vehicles are, where they can go. Mm-hmm. So I did that. I also converted a Mercedes, a beautiful Mercedes that I let Jon hold for about a month. I also
We've heard about that. Like every week, he talks about that Mercedes. He's like
Yeah, I've done.
with his toy.
Yeah, I worked with another company. And I converted a Jeep, which was I did this for another company. It was a Jeep Grand Cherokee. I took a Hemi motor out of it, and it was a big 350, 400 horsepower motor out of it. I mean, it was a brute. But I put a 100 horsepower motor in this truck, which ran on 10 little batteries the size of a loaf of bread. And I wanted to prove that you could take this truck, make it full-time four-wheel drive, climb a 17% grade hill with a 100 horsepower motor that weighs about 50 pounds.
Are even you surprised at this? Because this sounds remarkable, truly. Who would have thunk that small batteries can be such big horsepower without the horse?
Yeah, it is surprising that it can be done. You know, a lot of this is R&D. It's not done to sell. It's done to prove, to show that we can get to the next level. So a lot of what I do are just there's sort of experiments, but they're experiments that are done on a practical level. It's not done on a scientific level in a lab or with a huge budget. But it's done to show that this is what the average blue collar worker, the average middle class person can drive or should drive and have in their garage. You know, the average person drives 20 miles a day to go back and forth to work or in their community. Why should that have to be done with a vehicle that costs just as much to run as it does to even have? You know, your maintenance and your fuel and all, that's another separate cost, from apart from your insurance and your vehicle. I mean, your payment on the car. So it's almost like there's two sales floors when you walk into a dealership now. You got the one where you buy the car and then the one where you maintain the car. And I'm looking to eliminate that. That was the reason that I decided to get into the fleet and the municipality sector. I don't want to just convert vehicles on a regular platform for consumers or civilians, because that competition is too stiff. Now that the OEMs are understanding that there needs to be a change in our environment, the impact that we leave on our environment. Now, Cadillac and GM are coming out with 6 new cars, electric vehicles in their line next year. Toyota, Nissan, everyone is coming out with about 5 to 6 electric vehicles in their lines. I looked at the Super Bowl commercials this year.
A lot of ads.
And not 95% of vehicles advertised were all electric. Only one, which was a Toyota truck, was not electric.
It was remarkable. By the way, what does OEM stand for? I should know.
Original equipment manufacturer. Equipment original manufacturer, or original equipment OEM. Yeah, original equipment manufacturer. So OEM means
that, so I would ask. Dumb question.
Yeah, that's like Dodge or Ford or Chevy. Those are original equipment manufacturers.
Factory.
I am secondary.
Yeah, got it. So where do you want to go with this? Because it seems like you have broken through the sound barrier or something equivalent.
Well, and just, I want to fact check real quick here. It does appear as if I'm the first African-American to get into this field. I'm not. There's a few people that I've met out there that have done this about 3 or 4, 5 years prior to me that have been in this industry. African-Americans. Not many people have done this to take this and make it into an industry. Okay. I am the first of my knowledge, African-American, not the first person to take conversions and turn them into an industry. What I want to do is this. I figured the way that I learned can be taught. This can be an industry, and this is how this can be an industry. I'm speaking with a couple of local community colleges now. And what I want to do is create a curriculum for vocational and local community college students that want to get into the automotive industry to learn how to convert vehicles to electric. The reason I want to do that is because almost everyone, about 50% of the roads are going to be, of vehicles on the roads are going to be electric by the year 2030.
By 2030?
By 2030.
50%?
This is,
aren't we like at 2 or 3% still?
This is the anticipation, or this is the forecast. The state of North Carolina, their governor just made a public announcement that he is devoting a huge funding amount to the infrastructure and to garner electric vehicle manufacturers to come to Carolina. because he wants 50% of those vehicles on the road to be electric. Would that happen? Probably, it's probably a stretch. Even if we saw 30% of the roads of the vehicles on the road to be electric by 2030, 30% is a lot. That's a lot out of concerning the millions of vehicles on the road to this day. Now, what I want to do in teaching people how to convert vehicles to electric is this. I just built an electric tow truck, electric wrecker truck. I just built one, okay? It'll be ready for debut in about 30 days, okay, for public debut. This vehicle puts out about 4 to 5 times power as it did when it was in its diesel form, okay? This vehicle will be totally silent, totally earth friendly, but yet it will be more capable than it was when it was in its previous life, its previous form.
Sounds too good to be true, but you're saying you did it and you're the guy who
I've
did
already
it.
done
I
it.
believe you. Wow, remarkable.
I've already done it.
And,
Yeah,
and remember, I drove in one of Gregory's creations, 3 states, senators, I mean, you name it. I mean, politicians, business leaders, they all sat in that car. They drove it. And some of them drove it. They were just totally, they were blown away. I mean, just, and when they see this electric tow truck, and Gregory, can you explain why an electric tow truck is so much better, you know, like with a limited range that they do?
Okay, yeah.
Please.
So the average tow is only 5 to 10 miles. That's it. Okay. And I designed this truck to have about a 100-mile range, okay, before you have to recharge it. Now, say in a city like New York, right, where you have 5 boroughs, 5 different police departments, and each one owns their own tow truck. That truck's only going to drive about 20 miles a day within that borough, okay? You need power over range when it comes to a vehicle like that. So if you have a vehicle that can push cars out of the way, that can, you know, move cars, illegally parked cars or cars that are broken down, that are just going to go to a garage or to a tow lot, it's only going to do about 3 to 5 miles per tow, then this vehicle could run an 8-hour shift easily because it does more stopping and starting, more pausing than it does actually moving. So this is a vehicle that would fit well in that instance.
I have to ask you, how angry and upset are you about what's going on with our mail trucks, which are all about stopping and starting and should be completely electrified in this very dire moment of climate change and our, you know, car emissions being a big problem. And that just got like a whole new, I don't know how long they're going to last, but the next however many years, they're going to be driving, you know, polluting trucks, mail trucks. And we know that's politics. It was, you know, one of Trump's appointees who's still in charge. But I mean, that gets me just really sick. Like nauseous from fumes sick, just thinking about that, the potential lost.
You know, look, I look at it like this. The truth is patient. The truth is ever knowing. The truth will always be told. It just takes time. Okay.
But we don't have time, right? That's what every scientist is telling us.
But as long as there's a more than a handful of people out now that are looking to change the narrative of how we travel. They're looking to change the narrative of mobility. Okay, and energy production. I am talking with microgrid companies. I'm speaking with energy supplement companies. I'm speaking with infrastructure companies, grid infrastructure, not just grid, but charging infrastructure companies. I am working with, I'm forming this conglomerate, we're forming this together, a conglomerate of people who are changing the narrative of mobility, and we're not taking away from what is out there. We're giving people a choice. And what will happen is when people realize how little it costs to drive an electric vehicle, how less cumbersome it is to drive an electric vehicle, the word will spread, and it is slowly spreading. It is
and how
happening
little
now.
Service you need. I have not taken my Tesla in for service.
Well, and
For
Betsy,
years. I think that there was a part that was recalled and they actually drove out to me and fixed it. Could not be more easy breezy.
And Betsy, just hear the numbers on the savings for the average life of an electric tow truck.
Well, you look at a tow truck now, the average cost to drive a tow truck is between 64 and 84 cents a mile. Okay. That's what it costs per mile to drive this vehicle. When you consider 8 miles or 9 miles to the gallon, because it's geared so high, it's geared high so that you can tow a lot. So it's not made to be efficient, it's made to be powerful. All right. And then you have these transmissions now that are always breaking down because they're carrying twice the load as what they were designed. They're designed to move a vehicle, not designed to move 2 vehicles at once. So you have a lot of maintenance, you have a lot of brake fixes, you have power steering issues and you know, your motors that are always breaking down because so much strain on them, right? That needs to be repaired. I can save a vehicle right now. I have a Chevy 1500 truck with the big gold lifted tires and all, and it was supposed to be active fuel management, where you drive on the interstate, half the motor shuts off. I still get 12 to 16 miles to the gallon still. And I've got 260,000 miles with the repairs and everything, all of my receipts and all the fuel. I spent somewhere around $160,000 to drive this truck over the last 7 years. To drive an electric vehicle, and you can say this, you know yourself, to drive your Tesla is about 4 cents per mile. To drive an electric tow truck will be between 4 and 8 cents, depending on how much you're towing. 8 cents versus 80 cents. Imagine your savings.
And so why are they saying would have been prohibitive to electrify the mail fleet, the US Postal Service? Was that just politics? Were they lying? Like, how can you do it so affordably? And the government, which should be able to get really good contracts and, in bulk, they were saying it was something like 30,000 more per truck. Did I get that right? I mean, it was some crazy number, which would make any person think, oh, well, it's too expensive. But you're showing that it doesn't have to be.
Right. And again, I'm just jumping in.
I know there's a difference in converting.
Well,
but
I mean, the whole numbers thing, and again, politicians are great at manipulating what they want people to hear.
Especially one party. I'm sorry, but yes.
Right. But again, across the board, and one of my best friends works. I mean, he invented the mail sorting machine. He knows all these people, and again, he even knows that they're basically it's disinformation. And again, what Gregory is talking about is
a powerful
factual.
guy like that. I mean, did he try? I'm just curious if he tried to. It's just, to me, that's a symbol. It's mostly symbolic, but it's not just, because think about how long those mail trucks are going to be out there, going to around every neighborhood in America for how many years beyond when we like to think that we're going to cleaner and greener transportation. So not to get stuck on this, but I just find that so much a symbol of what's wrong still in 2022. But we're here to talk about the good news, so I'll get over it.
Well, really quick, just to touch on it. There are parts that are in play. There are pieces that are in play already, okay? And, there are contracts that have been signed. There are manufacturers that have already, mass manufactured so many parts that have to be used. And a lot of it is politics, okay? Yes, the cost up front to build an electric vehicle or convert an electric vehicle may be slightly more. It will be more, I'll be honest with you. But when you look at
the course of the vehicle.
But when you look at the overall effects of how long this vehicle will be on the road, how much you don't have to worry about the break fixes, downtime of a vehicle, the cost, the maintenance, that's
stop at the gas station and fill up versus I'm sure they could charge them all, at the postal
exactly.
station.
It can. Yeah, it can. But what we're going into is we're going into this realm now that the next conversation would be change. And when it comes to change, a lot of people just don't like change. And change is
do they like climate change? Apparently they like climate change, or can accept it, tolerate it more than they like change. Like, what's wrong with it?
Well, I'll tell you what I'm working on as well is these trucks that I'm building and that I want to sell to different municipalities and companies. All right. And it's not just a tow truck. I'm working on school buses, food trucks, anything that does a lot of stopping and starting. Okay.
And there's some good news with school buses, right?
Yes, there is good news. But here's where I come in with my 3 R's: recycle, repurpose, reuse. Okay. Here's where I come in with these vehicles. These vehicles have to be, say I get a contract for 1,000 school buses, right? And 1,000 tow trucks. These have to be done by people. Okay. So that same education program that I'm working on with these community colleges, well, now these people have to have jobs. And these jobs that I'm creating can also benefit not only the families by creating more income, they're working in, they're bolstering local economic communities, right? But they're also working to better our environment. So it's a win-win if everyone,
jobs. I call it green collar jobs. I'm sorry for
there you go, green collar jobs. Yes, turning blue collars into green collars. but everybody's making green. Okay.
It's a win-win-win.
On both ends.
I love those win-win-wins, really, truly. And there's so many people who are worried about their jobs, as they phase out coal mines, as we are too slowly but surely, and all the, dirty fossil fuel, oil rig jobs, they could all be converted, not overnight, but you're showing that it's just a matter of retraining. And I can't imagine somebody wouldn't feel better about, what they're doing every day if it was really causing less damage to their children's future, really, once they get past their politics and ideology.
Listen, the world that we live in today, and it's not just the U.S. U.S. is a huge influencer, but it's not just the U.S. This goes on all over the world. We live in what you call pop culture, profit over people. I'd like to reverse that. We can still live in a pop culture, but it can be people over profit. The profit's going to be made. Okay. When you do something and you do it for the right reasons and you do it the right way, you don't do it for money. Money becomes the byproduct. It's going to come. It's going to happen. You don't have to do it solely for money, because then the money's going to come, but then the fallout a lot of times isn't worth the effort in the beginning. And this is where we are in our world. It's just like take our climate, for instance. It took time to catch up. But in the beginning, it was all about profit over people. And now look at the fallout. We have to reverse that process. So we don't have to take money out of people's pockets. We don't have to take money away from manufacturers. Keep building your cars. Do what you have to do. I don't care. But let's take these same chassis and just take these same assembly lines, and instead of making internal combustion motors, right? Well, make electric motors. You can have the same people do the same installations. And I'm going to prove that.
And I am a waste fanatic in the sense that I hate waste. Isn't one of the wonderful outcomes of what you do that you're not wasting car parts, you're reusing them?
We can reuse them. All that we don't directly reuse, we can recycle. You can take these parts and recycle them. When you recycle them, then you have casting parts, you have aluminum you can reuse, you have your steel you can reuse for your motor mounts and different type of mounts and adapter plates and adapter units that you're going to have to use for recycling these, or reusing or repurposing these old vehicles. And even the vehicles that you don't use, the ones that are too old or too dilapidated, recycle them, use the steel to create new vehicles that then can be converted or made in an electric form.
What about batteries? Because that is, a lot of controversy around that, where, electric cars are going to run out of juice and they're going to be more toxic to dispose of. I don't think any of that is really necessarily true, but these were the kinds of things you'd hear on the street when Tesla was really coming into popularity. If you get into an accident, your car's going to burn up faster.
Well, and
are
Betsy, just
those old myths, or is there something?
If I can just jump in, I just did a story just last week about the co-founder of Tesla, and I don't have his name, but he's really well known, and he left Tesla to go in full time into recycling batteries.
Was that Martin somebody?
I'm not sure. I don't have his name in front of me, but I did the story. It's on Green TV.
Okay.
But the thing is, again, he left Tesla to concentrate solely on this issue, because that was the only thing that was bothering him in the entire circle of the electric vehicles. And he has answered that, and he has addressed it. And even the Dr. EV, Veronica,
Who was on?
who you interviewed, she is addressing that as well. Everyone is concerned about it. And I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, Greg, but I mean, thinking that again, a guy that left an insanely lucrative position and career to go into recycling. Batteries.
That's part of it. The batteries are the
and the electronics, with all that stuff. Anyway, Gregory, I didn't mean to interrupt. But,
oh, you're fine. You're fine.
You got some key players addressing this issue.
Yeah, to touch on that topic of battery recycling, there's a company in Ireland right now that's taking old EV batteries because EV batteries gain what you call dendrites within the batteries, and then it ruins the amount or lessens the amount of energy that these batteries can hold. When they get down to about 70%, they're deemed pretty much inefficient for travel. And then there's companies that take these old motors, these old batteries, once you take them out of the cars. And then they use them in solar applications, because solar applications don't need as much direct amperage or direct energy requirement as regular EV batteries do. So just say this cell phone here, right? We'll just say in an EV, you may fill this up, this whole phone from bottom to top filled up is 100%, right? When it gets to about 70%, you're about right here. The rest of this is just solid waste that cannot be used anymore, right? That means this car will charge fast, but it also will discharge fast. So that's why your range isn't there anymore. And what happens is the faster you excel with this car, the quicker it discharges. And that's what happens with EVs. Well, there's a company that's learned to take this remaining 70% and then put it in a solar application where it isn't required to discharge so quick. And this is just like instead of having a full 100 kilowatt battery, you're only having a 70 kilowatt battery, but that's good for a house, fine for a home application. And that'll last for another 20 years. So now you may have had 10 or 15 years in an EV application, but now you've got another 10 to 20 years left, you see? So that's a way of recycling or repurposing a battery. By then, just like John has said, the person that left Tesla has gone into recycling, learning how to recycling lithium ion batteries. Well, now by that time, imagine it's exponentially as technology is going forward when it comes to battery technology. By then, I'm positive, more than positive, we will have a battery recycling solution, a more common one in place. So therefore, there is life after life, or after death, should say, for these EV batteries.
That's great. It's not really upcycling or downcycling, but kind of side cycling. Yeah, it's
there you go.
Another life that is really legitimate.
And this is something that's in place now. Okay. And so in a nutshell, what I'm doing is, of course, my legacy vehicle will be my tow trucks, my record trucks. That's what will bear my name on those vehicles. Okay. However, I'm working with other companies that are looking to implement school bus applications, right? EV school bus applications. There are other companies that are looking to implement economic development applications within this EV conversion process, where we're taking people and educating them, certifying them, and then putting them to work, all revolving around EV conversions.
And can you do that across the country, or do they have to come to Georgia to learn directly from you? Can you kind of replicate this education process?
I have talks going on with city officials in Vegas and North Carolina. So there's both.
Of course, I'm doing Delaware and Maryland and New Jersey.
That's right.
All the way to DC.
So this can be done just about.
The JB Straubel, Straubel, and I'm looking at it right now. It's called Redwood, and Redwood recycles EV batteries, but JB Straubel is Tesla's co-founder. It's on Green TV, the whole story. But again, he's doing exactly what Gregory's talking about, just full circle, and turning these things into, just like what you have in your I believe you have it, Betsy, in your home, the energy storage system. Yeah,
we have Tesla
right.
Sunroof, solar panels on our roof, not the built-in ones, but we had a already existing roof, so we didn't have a chance to redo the tiles. We didn't need to, but we have solar panels made by Tesla. We have Tesla battery storage in our garage and 2 Teslas in the garage. And we are also the first ones in our Texas neighborhood out in Hill Country, where it's a little bit more conservative than the rest of Austin, where we're the first home to have solar panels put on out of 200 houses. We had to fight for that. Homeowners Association couldn't understand why anyone would want to do that when electricity is so cheap in Texas. But now there's a couple of other homes doing it. So a lot of this is, about watching others, learning from others. And I'm so impressed and encouraged really by what you're doing, Greg, with, John has told us we've got to get you on, and I understand why. So you guys are the car guys, you're the electric conversion guys. What have we left out that you want to make sure our audience knows about? What something they can do to expedite or accelerate the conversion? What do you call it? Industry? Can I call it an industry?
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, business.
It all boils down to education. I believe that in America, and this is, my belief is from my point of view, which is probably pretty, it's not broad, but the average household has more than one car in the driveway. And one of these cars can be an electric vehicle. It could be your grocery getter. It could be your daily commuter. If you have range anxiety when it comes to taking trips, well, then yeah, you can have your ICE, internal combustion car for that. But your everyday car, your back and forth can be electric, and it should be electric.
Or they can
And
both be. We both work
yeah,
from home, but yeah, and a lot of people are working from home. I don't know how that's going to impact the demand for electric cars. On the one hand, as people realize how much better they are to drive and how much better they are for the environment, people who have long commutes, I would think, would be wanting to really transition to electric vehicles. On the other hand, if more people are working from home, that's fewer commuters, which is good for the environment overall.
overall, yeah.
But maybe they don't need a new car because they're not driving one as much, and that might keep them in the internal combustion engine vehicle longer than they should. We'll see, because we're in uncharted territory.
Well, for the, that's what I would like to do for the public. That's what I would like to see for our civilian society. As far as businesses go, as far as delivery, home delivery, parts delivery companies, what we call last mile delivery, service vehicles, okay, all of those without a doubt work within a certain district. They work within a certain area, designated area, and you could figure out your return on investment with a spreadsheet, with mileage and usage over a 10-year period easily. And those are cars that definitely should be electric. There's no reason for those cars to be internally combusted.
And then, of course, there's a conversion of boats, which now that Jon has gotten over his camera shyness, we'll have him back just to talk about that. He lives on Chesapeake Bay and goes around to marinas and helps them green in so many ways, and talks about the electrification of their fleet, right? And also now there's airlines who are getting serious about investing in cleaner fuel options.
And space.
We
We literally have electric vehicle transports that fly and becoming more practical. But what I wanted to go back on in just that, what you were saying about being left out, what was left out, Bill McKibben brought up a really, really good point. And it made me think, it made me think so deeply about, again, you can plant a tree and it's a darn good thing, but you could convert an ICE to an EV, and have a direct, immediate, incredible effect, not just, right away, and for the rest of that life of that vehicle until it's recycled.
And look how many countries that have us over the barrel, pun intended, I guess, and Iraq and Russia, because we're so dependent, as Europe is, and it sure feels vulnerable right now, right? And maybe
and Bill was saying too,
to make those connections.
Again, we have more than an abundance of energy from the sun, the wind, all these things to power our transportation across the board.
Well, hopefully it will be more obvious, like what's wrong with this picture, the whole global picture right now, to many more people. You're right, Greg, and certainly Jon, and that's why we're here. It's all about education. And we don't think here at Green TV that, I think Jon would probably agree that we're going to be able to get off our gases, cut our emissions in half in the next 8 years if people don't know how to do that. And all the research shows that something like 50% of Americans are concerned, or no, 70% are concerned or alarmed about our climate. 50% want to know what they can do and don't know where to turn.
I would like Gregory to tell us what we can do, what Betsy Rosenberg, what Green TV can do to help him.
Yeah, please do.
To help the entire industry.
Yeah.
Well, unfortunately, the system that we're working on is a 100-year-old system, our infrastructure, okay, very archaic. And you have people that have learned to profit off of this system, off of this old system, right? What we're going to have to do is educate pretty much everyone. I believe that our climate education should be just as big or just as important as a curriculum, even in high school, as social studies. If we don't learn how to if we don't learn how to preserve or be in harmony with our environment, we're going to kill it, and then in turn we'll die, because
there's no society on a dead planet. There's no nothing. And climate change is an equal opportunity destroyer. It's coming for all of us in different forms. It's just a matter of, those poor people in Louisiana who got hit by several huge hurricanes last year. Which way the wind blows will determine who gets slammed. And and we've been traveling with this new boat to the Bahamas, and oh my God, the beach is eroding. We were in Freeport. They're just now getting their fresh water back. This is 2.5 years after Hurricane Dorian decimated parts of the islands there. So of course, the most unjust thing is the very people and places that are doing the least, not driving around in giant SUVs and polluting, are the ones feeling it first. And that is the whole environmental justice angle that we are absolutely committed to bringing forward, as often as we can here on Green TV.
Well, it all boils down to leadership. Every economic distressed community or rural community that I went to, where the town is just about bankrupt, it boils down to leadership. Mm-hmm. If our leaders aren't willing to be educated and willing to go an extra 10% in making sure that our climate, our economy, or our community or environment is taken care of, and they're the ones who's painting the picture for us, what do you think the average person's going to do? If their leaders aren't willing to step up and make a change, right? Or willing to change or accept some change, accept what the inevitable is, then what about the constituents or the people who these leaders are leading?
Thank you.
It boils down to education is what it boils down to. And it also boils down to people not wanting to be so greedy to profit off of our current situation instead of investing into making our situation better. Exactly. And that takes upfront sacrifice.
Not only putting party over country is wrong, but putting people and profit, above the planet and health and personal health and public health, of course, and planetary health, all connected. These dots should be obvious by now, but apparently not to the people who are, too many of them in power. And we didn't even get into the whole Build Back Better being stalled and the whole you touched on infrastructure. It's insanity. It's nothing short of insanity.
It's like Gregory said, the truth will come out.
Hopefully hopefully soon, because really that's what we're up against, is we're running out of time. And because the carbon can got kicked down the road the last 2 decades, I've been reporting on it since 2000. So, I didn't have any special knowledge. I don't know where CNN was. They had access to the same, hundreds of people I've interviewed who are the solutionaries, just like you, Greg, and you, John. It's really unacceptable to not be leading with these stories. It's not one story, front and center every day. And of course, today, when the IPCC news should be front and center, it's barely getting a mention because we're embroiled. Well, we're not, but we could be embroiled, and the whole world could be, this whole, Russian disaster. And it's not about oil, but it's absolutely about our addiction as a globe to fossil fuels.
Well, imagine this. Imagine this story being front and centered once it's a crisis, once it's a disaster.
Well, it is already, but it is.
But it is. But then when it becomes disastrous, right? When it comes peril, when it's like life is like in immediate danger, then the news will cover it. Then the mainstream news will cover it. Then when people and even if their last stroke of breath will try and figure out how to profit from this, then of course it'll be sensationalized.
And it'll be too late. By the way, it will be
when it should have been reported long ago. So fortunately, there are people who are, and this happens with everything. The visionaries, the people who think outside the box, they're looked at as a little bit quirky, a little crazy. You're a tree hugger.
No, we're radical.
Because it's not mainstream.
Right. We're radical.
Radical. But unfortunately,
radical to sell our children and grandchildren's future down the river without even saying we tried. Like, that's radically wrong, right?
I abide by the old Native American saying that we don't inherit the earth from our ancestors, we borrow it from our children.
Exactly.
I believe that.
And really, for the 2 decades I've been covering this, Greg, people have said, oh, no one's going to listen to you, Betsy, until there's a real crisis. I say, which one do you want to talk about? If you look, they're all there. And think about the places like Paradise, California, that burnt to the ground, a whole community. think about the poor people in Kentucky that got hit by that hurricane, I call them, weather on steroids. The news bands leave, but these people's lives are upended for years. There are people who have still not gotten back in their homes from Hurricane Harvey in Houston. And so when you say wait till crisis hits, these people have been hit by it. Now, whether they know that whatever, destruction came was fueled by, our emissions, because they may be voting for the very people we're talking about who don't believe science. Those are the dots that need to be connected. And that's what we're going to do regularly and loudly here on Green TV. So thank you so much. We want to let you get back to your garage, keep doing that important work. We'll certainly do our part to spread the word. And, I think you should maybe reach out to community colleges. There's a lot of, people who would like to go into green collar work, and you could be one of the places that, you can get some funding for if they want to either come to you, or maybe you can find a way to do it, virtually, like everything else on Zoom. I don't know, just a thought, but go forth and greenify as quickly as you can. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Jon Lake, will you come back and be on camera again? We sure loved having you here. The mysterious Mr. Lake, the founder of Green TV, the man who had the vision, and then finally I hope, realizing your dream.
Absolutely. And, again, you've heard me talk about Gregory. And again, you have to understand, if you would understand, my family has been studying the automotive industry since the early 1900s. And again, we've written about it. My late grandparents, my late parents, myself. Gregory is the answer. I mean, he is the solution. And again, not to everything, but to the biggest part, because everyone transports themselves. Just whether it's land, sea, or air, it's there. And Gregory has the solution. That is why I am backing him 100% personally in any way I can. And it's our responsibility, Betsy, to make sure that his words and his vision gets out there. That's our job.
Absolutely. Well, Greg, I'm glad that your face is the future. It's a very handsome face. And even if it's just in your lane, it's a very important lane. So again, best of luck to you. And we'll be checking in with you maybe in 6 months or so and see how you've grown.
No, we want it weekly, Betsy.
Yes. Hello. We want to recruit you to do a show. Hello.
Yes.
About that.
Yes.
We don't want to take away too much time for your important work, but maybe once a week on the weekends, that would be perfect. Why not?
Yeah, I'd love to. And I thank you for your support. Thank you, Jon. Thank you, Betsy. Jon's been behind me every step of the way. He yells my name from the mountaintops.
He does.
And I want to do the best. I want to do my best to make sure I don't let him down. I don't want him to yell for nothing.
No. Now we finally got through this interview. You guys know it's been a bit long in coming, but we'll get it out there. And we hope to see much more of you on Green TV, Greg. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
That does it for this
Take
edition
care.
of Meet the Solutionary. See you next time.